All right. Thank you once again, viewers out there and listeners out there, for joining us on another episode of Stories They Buried podcast. Today, on this episode, I will be talking about the lynching of Peter Bazemore that happened in Bertie County, North Carolina. Today, I am joined with, and tell me what your name, ma'am.
My name is Dr. Kashi Bazemore.
So let's get into the lynching now. So Peter Bazemore was 16 years old and was lynched near Lewiston, North Carolina, and Bertie County, North Carolina. That is a very, very, very young age. Now, apparently, he was accused of assaulting a white woman who was a wife of a well known farmer.
I did find something that says that Brian Stevenson did address this case
Okay.
um, in Berkeley County. So, uh, with founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, he wrote about it in the New York Review. He mentioned some of it, but he said, here's what he said. Um, that a white woman was raped in Lewiston in 1918. Peter Bazemore was accused and lynched before an investigation revealed that the perpetrator was actually a white man wearing blackface makeup.
Wow.
Stevenson explains that EJI's lynching research drew on local newspapers, historical archives, court records, African American newspapers, and other historical documentation. So what I'm telling you is they still do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Wow. So a white man wore blackface and assaulted that white woman, and it all got blamed on 16-year-old Peter Bazemore. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Exactly.
See,
And so
and
I
that's
thank you for this. Yeah, because
thank
I'm
you.
telling you, this is I feel for Peter Bazemore, even though this
Yeah.
happened so long ago, it was still in the 1900s and I was born in 1970. So I was only born just over 50 years,
Wow.
after this happened. And so that is what makes me say to people all the time, pay attention to what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
If it happened then, it could happen again.
When you first learned of this story, how how did you find out about this story? Was this something that was talked amongst people in Bertie County when you were growing up and living there, etc.?
Well, not when I was growing up and living there so much, but in recent years, I have really pushed for the acknowledgement and preservation of Black history in Berkeley County because, when I first moved to Berkeley County from New York City as a child, there was still so much standing. All of the Rosenwald schools were still standing. The Blue Lounge Hotel where James Brown and all of the people famous that came through stayed because of segregation and them not being able to stay in regular hotels. But there was just so much history. The old movie theater was still there in downtown Windsor, and there just has been a conscious disregard of preserving our history. So when I found out about this case, it was because I was specifically doing research on the history of white supremacy and lynching in Berkeley County, and that's how I came across Peter's name.
Now, how deep into the rabbit hole did you get? Like, do you know specifically the name of the farmer whose wife was apparently assaulted? Do you know anything that is like, do you know any thorough information about this
So
case?
so we do have I have the reference to the case. And so, but it's really not what we think of today because, he was really never formally given a fair trial.
Right.
He was accused, and like in so many other instances, the accusation in itself was enough for white people to round you up and murder you. We just have to wonder what his life could have been, what his story could have been, what his legacy could have been because there were many people who were doing things in 1918 who are still remembered by the people who live there now. So this young man should have had the opportunity to grow to be an adult, but he was lynched without trial, and that was consistent with what was happening, not just in Bertie County, but in other northeastern North Carolina counties and communities. And but this one, I think, so far has been the best documented of all of the cases.
Yeah, there's
So
not much
far.
on it. There's not much on it. I
Exactly.
just, yeah, the information and the notes that I have here is gathered from just exactly one news article that I saw online, and that's it. And then I also take that back too. There's also a book that I read a couple years ago called 100 Years of Lynchings by Ralph Ginsberg. And in the back of the book, where the index is like thousands upon thousands of people who were lynched. And these are just recorded lynchings. So imagine the ones that aren't recorded. There could be so much
Exactly.
more of that too. But I went into the North Carolina section because it's all divided state by state. And when I saw Peter Bazemore and it said Lewiston, North Carolina, I'm like, oh wow, like this. I need to find
Yeah.
out more information about this. And then when I found out that he was 16 years old, like my jaw dropped. I'm like, wow, that's very
Yes.
young.
That is my testimony now. I'm in the process all type movement where we are going to have to help Black people open independent schools in all of the states where they have school vouchers, including North Carolina. And so I'm from a people who said, to whom much is given, much is required. And so that's why it was a pleasure to speak to you about this today,
Thank
even
you.
though Peter Bazemore was not my relative. The point is, he was from Bertie
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he was a Bazemore, and he was a teenager, and he deserved better than that. But Bertie County, the history of our community is so just totally uh, saturated with white supremacy. And even if you look at Bertie County today, I always tell people, if you want to know what it was like in North Carolina in the South during colonial times, come on down to Windsor, North Carolina, and Bertie County, because not much has changed.
Right.
We are one of the only counties in North Carolina, out of 100 counties, we are majority Black, and yet we have still not been able to really get the power to do with this community what we want to do. Even as Black people have started to get positions on the county commissioner board.
Now it says here, and I talked to a historian about another lynching on my
Mhm.
podcast, and she said that the newspapers back then really, really, how can I put it? She said that they sort of exaggerated these stories. And when she mentioned that to me, it says, yeah, it makes sense because, some of this, when I read these newspaper articles about these lynchings, it's very, very over exaggerated. So I thought to myself, I said, it says here that apparently Peter Bazemore confessed. And it's like,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't think that these guys confess to these things because I just can't see them doing it, because a lot of
Yes.
them really stick to their innocence, leading up to their deaths. So it says here that he supposedly confessed, and it says here that he supposedly knocked her down with a piece of stove wood. And then it says that a posse had searched for him for about 10 hours before he was captured, and then he was hung 30 minutes after being captured. Now,
Okay.
have you all, or has anybody, I mean, is there any type of historical society in that area that knows about this, that talked about this? Is there any location as to where the lynching occurred or anything that you know of?
No, absolutely not. In fact, when I brought this up, I founded a group, a Facebook group called Building a Better Bird Tea. And when I shared this information there, it started right back up with the white people come in and they try to intimidate you and they say, why are you trying to divide the people? And I say to them, history matters. I'm a history teacher. I am a history enthusiast. Even the ugliest of history that impacts my life is still history that I want to know, that I want my children and my grandchildren to know. But as soon as I started talking about it, it was a lot of interest in it. But then before I knew it, people were just like moving on. And that's what happens in Bertie if a person like me tries to get people to ask questions or to look back and to raise issues and to seek information. People get intimidated by about their jobs. People are working in the government for Bertie County or on somebody's farm that's white or on somebody's business that's white. And so it's never hard to shut any kind of organization or seeking of Black awareness and knowledge. It gets shut down 100% of the time. So
Now, when you
that was the
first
same
brought
case
this up,
here.
you said that you were intimidated. How was that? Like, what were some of the responses that you were getting for even bringing up this event?
Oh man, let me just tell you, I have been called nigger on Facebook. When I reported it to Facebook, they said it was not a violation of their community guidelines, but yet when I called white supremacists uh, fake Christians and said that God would not be mocked, that led to me getting shut down and off Facebook so many times. I couldn't even tell you. I was always in Facebook jail until they stopped with that program. And so people were flat out addressing me and saying that I was trying to cause dissension in the community by bringing up old stuff.
Wow. Now, have you heard about the Equal Justice Initiative? It was all
Yes,
started
I
by
have.
Brian Stevenson. And have you reached out to them
Yes.
to see if they could put like a memorial marker,
Well,
there in the area?
we really, that's a good point, and I'm going to take that on. We have been doing more to get markers put up for Black History, so I appreciate you suggesting that because I will look into doing that because, do we even have anything? I know I haven't seen anything that gave the exact coordinates and location of where this happened.
Yeah, and that's what I'm worried about because, like I said, I talked to a historian that has covered about three of the lynchings that happened in Alamance County around the same
Hmm.
time as this lynching. And, she said that it was pretty much a whole process. They had to, do a whole lot of research, but it sucks so because for those lynchings, there was already a whole lot of information out there, anyways, from the get go. So from there, they were
Hmm.
able to, find the coordinates and get in touch with the Equal Justice Initiative and all that other stuff. But it's like when I look at Peter Bazemore's situation, I'm like, wow, I just see one article that was written back there when the lynching happened, and that's it. There's like no location
Exactly.
given or anything.
Well, let me just tell you, because Lewiston, oh my gosh, I had some cousins who their father was from Lewiston, and I used to go to their family reunions sometimes up there, and it's so muddy up there. I mean, the roads are not as developed as they could be. It's still very, very country. I'm gonna say all of Bertie County is considered rural,
Oh, yeah.
but there's some parts that are more rural than others, and Lewiston is extremely rural. And the thing that concerns me is that when you look at the amount of woods and trees in Bertie County, that it would be. I just tried to check right now to see if there's anything I could find um, about the precise location, such as the particular road or on a farm or a tree. And I'm not finding anything now. I'm going to definitely do some more research.
You know something? I would not, now that I'm listening to you talk, I would not be surprised if more people know about that lynching and others as well. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I think that there might be something about the lynching that they want to hide or keep under the thing. Is it
Of
there's just something
course.
because I just don't there's something I'm just getting a vibe here that there's something about this lynching and probably others as well that I feel they know about. I think more people know about it, and I think that
Exactly.
they want it to stay hidden for some odd particular reason. Now, growing
Well,
up,
let me just tell you, there are only so many surnames in Bertie County. So I've done extensive genealogy in Bertie County, and of course, our names are the white people's names. But I feel like d- there will be some descendants, some because there's still white people living up in Lewiston, and I think that they don't want people to find out because Lewiston is one of the blackest towns in Bertie County. And so I just think that there's an effort to hide stuff so that people who are descendants living in Bertie today don't have to be targeted, or addressed. And I always tell people, y'all better watch out for these young people in Bertie because they're not scared of white people,
yeah.
like people have been in my generation and before. And so the saddest statistic that's coming out of Bertie County right now is that we have had the highest unsolved murder rates of black teenagers in North Carolina. Our numbers, when you look at the actual numbers, we are going alongside people like Jacksonville, Florida, Chicago, Illinois, New York, as far as the homicide rates compared to the population. And so I personally know people who have been killed. I'm talking about 18, 19, 20 people, some who went to my charter school. Also know young people who have killed, some of whom went to my charter school. And so, Bertie is in crisis right now, and yet I can assure you that nothing will change because the black people who do speak up are quickly squashed. And when I went there to open the charter school, they came for me. Do you want our support? Because if you want our support, this is what we're gonna need from you. And so it's that kind of thing, and yet they never give us anything. But any of us that come there to do something progressive or who come there and we have money, here they come.
Now, do you
And
think
I'm
that
just
those
like,
murders are black on black crime, or at least some of them might be black on black crime, or do you think that some of them also might be racially motivated? Because my next question to you was going to be, when you were growing up in that area, were there rumors about missing people, missing black people, or black people who were found mysteriously dead under mysterious circumstances? And they say that there
yes.
was no foul play involved, but other people think otherwise. Was there anything like that in Bertie
Yes,
County growing up?
often, often, often. When I was younger, I remember the sheriff or the police chief over in Williamston, which is Martin County. His daughter, he was white, and his daughter was messing with a black guy. And the next thing we knew, they were found in the bottom of the Roanoke River.
Both of
And
them?
and yes,
Wow.
and I'm telling you, those people are so racist that they will make an example of if he had threatened her, the sheriff of Plymouth, he had a white daughter that had a whole bunch of black kids because she just liked black men and she lost her life. Her husband was a sheriff over in Pitt County and they had moved to Greenville and she had just got her license to be a therapist and she died as a result of domestic violence, and now all of her children have completely disassociated with their blackness and have said they're white. But I would love to see Peter get justice by having his story told more completely and probably accurately. And then not just that, I want to know about the other lynchings in Berkeley County because for whatever reason, this one got documented. But trust me when I tell you, the elders in my family made it clear that it was plenty of people who were being lynched. in Bertie County
I can
that
believe
we
it.
don't have a record of. Exactly.
I can believe it. And there was some place, I'm telling you, just like you, I'm a researcher too. So I'm constantly
Hmm.
Googling things, I'm constantly looking things up. And I even came across, and I think I told you this in our messages back and forth to one another too, that there were actually three slaves, or even more than that, actually 11, if I want to, if I'm not mistaken, that were executed for
Hmm.
supposedly starting or trying to start a
Uprising.
rebellion.
Yeah, so I just found out about that too in recent years, but apparently there was some truth in that. According to the elders in my family. You know what I'm saying? But I just was so proud that we had people that were willing to take that chance in Bertie County because the people in Bertie, to me, we just seem so downtrodden and beat down, and that's why I never fit in when I'm home because I just believe that we all put our pants on one leg at a time, and if somebody says something racist in front of me, I'm going to
Go
check
ham.
that 100% of the time. And so, you know, but yeah, I just am so happy to be talking to you about this because now you've got me interested again. And I really want to know. I just did one search and I found something that said, the strongest contemporary record I found is the NAACP, the Crisis, the newspaper that they had. And this was something that was published in February of 1919, which would have been the next year.
Hmm.
And they said that they gave a little bit of information about the location, but still, unfortunately, it didn't identify the road or the farm or the bridge. So
Wow.
I'm like, how could people back then, if so many people were doing stuff, I just can't believe that we don't know where this happened.
Yeah. And
And
I think
Lewiston is
what's
so small.
yeah, and I think what sucks about that also is that it seemed like from the description of the newspaper article about the event, it seemed like it was something that happened very, very fast, all in one day.
Yes,
I mean, I know that it said that it took 10 hours for them to hunt him down and track him down, but yeah, I mean, these incidents, they happen so fast. And
exactly.
it's like nobody's not even thinking about the location or anything like that until maybe after the fact. And then on top of that,
Exactly.
they didn't even, I guess it really shows that they didn't even care about his life or anything, outside of the realm of what was going on to take note of anything. I mean, they just wanted to
Exactly.
get this over with, get it done, and go on about their day. And it really reflects how little they valued Peter Bazemore's life.
Well, this is exactly what it was. It's just like when you look at the hanging that just occurred in downtown Raleigh on Saturday. The reason I immediately posted and tagged the Raleigh Police Department was to say this is unbelievable that this just happened hours ago, and yet you're already with all the surveillance and cameras in downtown Raleigh at this Caribbean festival that was going on. You're just going to tell us that it was a suicide.
All right.
And now I'm just going to tell you one of the problems I have with that is that we have data and research that shows yes, black people do commit suicide, but not at the rate of other races.
Right.
And so even what just happened, they have already tried to brush it under the rug. The guy was a homeless man, and lynching has always been about inflicting fear on the others who are left behind. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I really believe from the bottom of my heart that somebody targeted a homeless individual at this time, that it was this big black festival because people are trying to make us all scared.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
They
and,
saw a lot of
and
black
yeah,
people out there celebrating, enjoying life, living life,
exactly,
happy. And
exactly.
that's something that they've always tried to destroy within us. The fact that, through it all, we're able to still love one another and be happy and find ways to enjoy life. Now, how exactly racist is Bertie County? What, y- you know, because like I said before, when we're looking at the Peter Bazemore lynching, when we're looking at the results of you bringing this lynching to light so that more information can be brought out about it, and looking at the results of that and how people treated you and called you all kinds of names and stuff,
Hmm.
what is
Hmm.
it about Bertie County that a person not from there doesn't know about? Like how racist is this county, and what level of racism are we dealing with here?
I would say seriously that Bertie County is one of the most racist counties in North Carolina, but they do a good job of covering it up because we have so many, and yes, I'm going to say this on record, we have so many Black people who are willing to, and I'm going to put quotation, air quotation marks, and if you think this is offensive, you can edit it out. But there's so many people cooning for cash. And so what that means is there are Black people in our community who are willing to go along with what white people tell them to say, to do, and all of this. And so because of them, people say, well, it can't be that racist because they say that the white people in the county are good. If you look at the high school, um, when the schools were integrated, Bertie County was one of the last counties to integrate schools. They had to be forced as a part of that case out of Charlotte, the Swan case. But as soon as the schools were officially integrated, they built the private schools to keep their children from attending school with our children. Bertie County is just a unique situation because when I lived there, I used to go to Edenton to over to Chowan County all the time because I felt like they were the most progressive in the area even before I did my research. And then when I did my research, I realized that Edenton was an established port city and that there were Black merchantmen and the people on these vessels bringing and taking goods who were taking Black slaves to freedom. Harriet Jacobs, if you know her story,
Yeah.
she was from Edenton.
Now, and I know that I know what your question, I know what your answer is going to be, but I have to ask it anyways, just to allow the viewers to get a glimpse of this area of North Carolina in particular, because
Okay.
I noticed and
Okay.
felt some vibes myself when I've been, in places like Windsor and Allender. And I think I might have been in Lewiston once, so I'm not quite sure. But I
Hmm.
get the
Hmm.
vibes because I'm from Virginia,
Yeah,
born and
and
raised. But
Askew is the real place.
right.
Is was all white, and I'm not gonna. Well, yes, I am going to say on record right now because I'm ready to say it. But I was instrumental in getting the federal government to come and shut that school down because it was 98% white in a community that was 76% Black. And what I said is all them kids at that school don't live in Askew. So they are letting people lie about their address so that they can go to a white school, and this was in the early 90s, and the federal government came to Windsor and did an investigation, and the school was closed, and I don't care if people find out as a result of this interview. I worked with a cousin of mine who is an attorney. I won't give her name, but I'm proud to say today that yes, I was one of the people behind that
Tell us the
exposure.
name of the school again?
It was called Askewville Elementary School.
And when did all this occur?
This would have occurred like 1991, 92,
Okay.
because I was there before I went to law school, and I went to talk to her about it because I had been reading and researching cases, and I told her this is happening right here under our nose, and they are getting away with it. And I asked her if she would help assist me, and she did. And so, like I said, I won't give her name, but it was her and me and probably about four other people
Hmm.
who I convinced to join us in our effort to let DC, let the federal government, the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights know what was happening. And so just this was before Doge and Trump and the whitewashing of civil rights organizations. So they did a thorough investigation, and that school was closed.
That will be all for this interview. Thank you once again, for just, taking some time out of your day. One more thing. You said that you started an organization called Building a Better Bertie, something like that. Can you
Yes.
tell the viewers and the listeners out there how they can, get access to that? Is there a website or a Facebook page or anything?
Yes, well, so yeah, well, the Building a Better Tea is a Facebook page that is absolutely thriving. When I left town, they tried to shut me down and start another one, but people trusted that one. So the other two that they started have gone defunct. But this one is the one that politicians, the hospitals, local people know that if you want people in Bertie County to know something, come to this page. And that was the page that I founded as I was leaving the community because I was determined to let these people see that I'm physically leaving, but my influence will be here and I'm going to still do what I can to build a better Bertie.
All right. Well, Kashi, once again, thank you so much. For the listeners out there, this does conclude this episode of Stories They Buried podcast. You could catch this episode on YouTube at the Stories They Buried podcast channel or TikTok, which is also called Stories They Buried podcast. As always, stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you all so much and have a great day. Stay tuned for our next episode.